to the lesson on AIA. I am currently at the JobMaster Pro main menu, and I'm going to click into the Job Center and bring up a job that I've already got set up in the system. You must have a job already set up before you can set up an AIA record for that job. So what I have here is a job set up with its budget, as you can see in the budget calculator. And if I click into the budget window, you can see that I've also set up some page budgets. Now remember that AIA is very strict about its billing by scheduled values, which we use as pages. Those terms are synonymous essentially. So what I did is I set up some page budgets for this job. You don't have to do this, but if you do set up your page budgets for the overall job so that the costs and everything and billings can be tracked by page of the job, then when we set up our AIA record for this job, these budgets that are set up here can be imported onto the AIA screen. Again, you don't have to do that, but it is kind of cool to set it up here because you get more tracking of the overall job because the AIA and the job cost all relate together. So I'm going to exit out of the budget window, and I'm going to click on the AIA button on the toolbar. And before I set up an AIA record for this job, I want to go into Options on the menu bar, change AIA Defaults. Take you in there for just a second. There aren't a lot of defaults for the AIA, but each user who might be doing AIA can set these defaults up according to how they run AIA. Now the retainage type. This is very important because there are two different ways to handle retainage on AIA jobs. The most common way is to have the system calculate full retainage, and in other words, you're going to be sending a payment out for the full amount, but you're expecting back less the retained balance. So that's what full, or F, means for retainage type. Also the page type, as you can see here, this relates to your pages that you've already got set up in your job pages table, and you might want to review the lesson on job pages if you need a refresher on that. But again, because AIA relies heavily on your pages for its scheduled values, you can set a pre-built list of pages so that when you're building your AIA record here, as we are doing, you don't have to type in your list of AIA pages all the time. So that's one reason why you may want to consider doing that. It's kind of cool. I'm going to exit out of the defaults and come back to the main AIA center. Now the retainage amount or percentage that you see here is coming off of the main job center screen. So as the job is in progress, if the retainage percentage is reduced, then as it's changed on the job center screen, it will also change in here. So you don't have to worry about changing it here as well. That's how the AIA record and the actual job record work together. So what I need to do is just answer a couple of questions here on the AIA info, and that is, what is the project number? So if you have a project number that you need to enter in here, go ahead and do that. Otherwise you can just kind of copy your job number in here too. Sometimes you don't have a separate project number for the job. It is the actual job number. But either way, as I press enter, I'm brought down to that retainage field, and again, this is coming off of your defaults. And again, the difference is that retainage, full retainage is billed out. The retainage is billed out with each bill, although you're expecting back less the retained balance. And then net retainage is different in that you're going to be sending out a separate invoice, not application, but invoice for the amount of retainage that has been withheld as the job is in progress. So in other words, the net retainage means that it hasn't even hit your AR. It's not recognized at all because you have to bill for it separately as its own invoice at the end of the job. I'm going to be working mostly with full retainage because that's the most common way that the system works. But I'll talk about the last application for the net retainage to talk about getting that invoice out. But for now, I'm going to keep that as F, and as I hit enter, the Save AIA button becomes highlighted. I'm going to just press enter to save my record. And what happened here is it automatically set me up with the next application, but we're too early to even work on it yet. So what we're going to do is build our list of scheduled values. Now I can do that right here in my entries down below underneath the display, or I have a couple of options I can do too. If I have already set up some job budgets, as you saw on the main job center screen, I could import those right here, and you can see they did come over for me, which is cool. So again, that's how that works together with the job budgets on the main screen. I can also just manually type in my pages here too, and the key here is the type here, because as you're entering new pages, the type is important because it tells Cobra how to treat that page. So I'm going to leave the R, which means that this is a regular scheduled value page, and I'm just going to enter another page. Now here, the scheduled budget, which you can see here too, is the price that you're billing for, not the cost, but the price that you're billing for. So here I'm going to come in and type in and save the page. Now if I need to, I can double click on any line and change anything about that line and just resave it. So if you made a mistake, don't worry about it. Double click on that line. You can change any line that you want to. Now as long as I'm in here, let's say I've got my main scheduled value pages down, but I would recommend at this point also to add another line for change orders. So what I'm going to do down here is enter a new line for page 500, because that's my convention for tracking change orders, and I'm going to put C in there for change orders. And what that is going to indicate to the AIA program is that anytime I add a new change order, which we're going to do later, it's going to accumulate all of the change order budgets into this one line. And if you've ever worked with AIA, you know why we're doing that. So I'm just going to add that as its own page with C as the type. Now, although we haven't done an application yet, I do want to show you, at least at this point, how to add a change order to your AIA. And it can be at any point during the life of the AIA record. So if this was the 7th billing or whatever, you can do it at any time. But this is how you do it. You add your page for that change order, and if you had set up a change order for this in the Job Center's change order screen window, it would actually bring out the budget for that right here. And you'd see the budget for it right in the scheduled budget here, which is cool. But this is the key here. When you're adding a new change order to the AIA, you put A in here to indicate that this is a newly added change order, because then Cobra will know which are the new change orders and which are the ones that are now in progress. So the A is very important to tell Cobra that this is a new change order. And then obviously you put in your budget for that change order as well. So what's going to happen here now is that as the job is in progress, whether you're posting to these individual pages or not, Cobra can talk to your job posting screens. Okay, so if you've been posting material and labor to their individual pages on the job posting screens, all the better, because then Cobra will know or go out and grab your period prices for each page of the job. So I do encourage you, if at all possible, on your AIA jobs, to post your material and labor to each individual page of the job, so that by the time you come into here, you can get a very accurate period price every month that you're going to do your AIAs. So before I actually do an AIA application, let me exit out of here, and we're going to do that just so I can give you a visual on this. I'm going to go into my material posting screen, and I'm going to post material to that page of the job. Now remember that anywhere in COBRA, whether it's in these posting screens, in purchase orders, accounts payable, or payroll, you can always charge material, labor, and direct to individual pages of the job. Just look for that word page whenever you're posting something to a job. And I'm just doing this just for the effect here, so that when we work on the AIA, we'll have some information in there. So I'm going to exit out of here. Remember this charge amount, because you're going to see this when we import it into the AIA. So as I go back into my AIA screen, let's say I want to do my first application. What we're going to do is perform these three functions right in a row. 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, update. What that does, after I've told it what my current billing cycle is for, because this is the important part of the AIA. It looks to your job posting screens to see what you've posted to the job for this date range. And as I click save, I verify my date range and I click save. What COBRA will do is go out then and update each page of the job with what it found posted to that page, your charge amounts. So these are your potential billings. It also put them in the current column, but this is the key here. We don't expect that you're going to be billing right off of what you've charged to the job. So you can double click on each line and change it down here to what you want to actually bill for. So even though COBRA said this is what's coming off of your job, you might want to bill for more or less than that, or maybe put part of this amount in the stored column so that it shows up on the proper column on your AIA application. There we go. So now I changed my period price, what came off the job, to what I want to actually bill for, just by double clicking on the lines that I want to change. And I can do the same for any of these. I can double click on any line and manually put in what I want to bill for. So you know, if you haven't started a certain phase of the job but you've bought materials for it, let's say, so you want to get that into your billing, you can do that kind of thing right at this point. So they're not totally locked in together, although again, as you can see from this line, we're trying to help you out by giving you what we think you have into the job for this current billing. So as you can see, the current is the current for the current application, and the current step down here at the lower right says update prices done. So it won't let me do step 1 again because I've already done step 1. So I'm going to do step 2, and because I don't have a printer here, I'm going to create a PDF. So you'll see some screens come up that you wouldn't normally have to deal with if you're doing a PDF. If you're doing normal printing, I should say. So once the printing is done, and you can see the current step says reports done, it won't let you print them again because that can goof up your numbers. There's a lot of calculations going on behind the scenes every time you print your AIA documents. But now I want to close this one because it's done. And you're going to look here to see what happens when we close this application, and look here too. We're going to close it. Okay. What it did was it set us up to the next application, updated some numbers here, and it moved the current column into the prior. So each time we close an application, whatever in the current column gets added into the prior applications. And you can see the percentages are updated and your open balance is updated for each line as well. The other thing that Cobra did is it created an invoice for the application that you just completed. Now this invoice, as you can see at the lower left, it's not on your accounts receivable. Alright, it created it, but it's not going to assume that you automatically want it on your accounts receivable. Maybe you made a mistake on the billing, or maybe you're catching up applications. Alright, so that's why we don't automatically post the invoice that each application makes. If you want to do that, you can just go to your billing center. It will bring up that invoice, and then at that point you can go into your free form, take a look at it if you want to. In this case, this is what a normal application would look like, or a billing for an application. And not everybody sends out the invoice with the application, but this is for to get onto your accounts receivable, and this is what it looks like. Because I'm doing a full retainage, what this is saying is that this includes the retainage for the current period. Please remit the net balance of $17.10 when paying this invoice. So that's kind of cool. If you want to, then you can print it out to get it onto the accounts receivable, or if you wanted to just delete that invoice because you're just catching up your applications, you can do that as well. Very good. So let's go back to Job Center, and let's go back into our AIA. Now at this point again we're set up for the next application. So next month when we come in here, we can enter new change orders down here. Notice that our previous change order was changed to R here, so that Cobra knows that this is a change order that was added prior to the current application that we're going to be working on. And that's how that works. So that is the end of the lesson on AIA.